Let's take a look into the emotional environment. How is this different than the emotional system? The parts are a little bit smaller. The emotional environment has some more practicality to it. The emotional um, system, bigger moving parts. All right. So let's go into the emotional environment. In the emotional environment, we're saying that emotions essentially come from the understanding of energy moving out of the individual. So we say, where is this energy coming from? Within. Within. So what are the factors within that are really being changed by this environment? We'd say that hormones would be the major contributor in this sense. So we see that, if we hold a strong emotion long enough, does this have an impact on our bodies? We'd say, yeah, the hormonal system will change. And with that, the environment will also look differently. The person will move differently. The person will act differently. The words they select to describe things that they do, whether positive or negative, will also change. The way of solving challenges will also change. And as you can see, this whole environment now starts to have an impact on the individual. We can also say that, if we hold anger for a very long period of time, does this impact our organs? Yeah, it also has an impact on different organs of the body, depending on the emotion itself that is being held in too high of a quantity, let's say. So we do want to create a kind of homeostasis, if you will, with the emotions that are being used to power our ways of doing things. So we're looking for kind of a neutralness. So we're not wasting energy or emotion uh, too readily on a kind of immediate basis. So we're looking for a more stable temperature in this environment. Knowing this, what is the visual for somebody that might be having, let's say, a stormy emotional environment as opposed to a more neutral and calm one? We'd say that in men, generally in their later years, or women too in their later years, uh, but men specifically, we're going to say that they have this one pack, this weight in the center. We'd say, well, maybe they're just not exercising. They need to be out more. They're working now. They're not really as active as they used to be. Yes, this is true. I think that we might just be putting blame somewhere, making a snap judgment. I'd say how much activity is needed to be able to create this kind of fit look. This becomes a question. How much of this is actually the internal environment, the emotional environment, being shown externally would be my real question to something like this. And I'd say, well, is this weight gain over many parts of the body, or is it just central? For most guys in that kind of age group or category, that challenge or that environment, the weight is more central. The arms are maybe not toned or jacked, but they are slim or slender compared to their midsection and the weight gain there. We do know that cortisol tends to pool in the stomach area around the organs. This is also the apple body shape there. For ladies, the shape is a little bit different, but we're going to say again, the hormonal system would be a huge contributor. This being emotional system as well, because we know they're tied now. So then how do we change this environment would be the major question. Hmm, this is a lot more soft changing. We would have to then say, well, where are the areas of stiffness or tightness in this emotional environment? And they will be easy to be found, maybe not by the direct perception of the person in the environment, because they've just kind of been living that way for a while, but the people around them might have a greater understanding of this environment. What mood are they in today, and how does this either withheld energy or highly promoted energy expressed in their ways of acting? We can see this might be the type A personality. This might be the person who's overly introverted or overly extroverted. We are looking for, in this emotional environment, extremes, if you will, right? Sharpnesses. They're not smooth corners, essentially. And in this way, we know that emotional health can be increased in these areas. It's generally, if it is in an area of high sharpness, we're going to want a softer approach, probably the softest to start. And then slowly, as the person themselves moves away from refining that edge and smoothing out themselves, then we might be able to be more direct with this thing. Always in areas where we need emotional support or growth or health, we're going to say, even though our age might be what it is in number, this area has not had much experience. Therefore, we must deal with it with a kind of tender kindness that we would give to a young individual or a toddler or a child. We do want to be soft in this area, is my point. And all people will need this softness, no matter what their external physique is, male or female. We do want to lead with that, allowing then the true expression for emotion to come out, the full conversation to be had, the releasing of the grudge, the expression of the joy, the taking the cap off of the potential. All these things we want to allow to happen in this kind of softer environment. I would, in fact, suggest that you work with a professional, generally in self-care, because this is what this is. I am a self-care professional, surprise, surprise, and I do think that seeking more guidance in this area is very common. I think most people need it because there's nobody really sitting down with you and saying, well, this is how self-care works. This is how you navigate those systems. This is what a best practice. This is for ideal healthy outcomes in this area. So I think that this is very important. This is why I make these videos. If you're interested in time with me, you can reach me at designfitness.ca. Book an appointment and we can take a look at what the emotional environment and or self-care environment is like for you. That being said, let's move on. So we do want to look for now a different expression. In ladies, what do we see as a showing of this kind of emotional environment that needs some kind of support? We'd say for ladies, it's easier to see, not that there's not other expressions, but it is the more constant changing of a mind or constant need of stimulation. This is also seen in guys. It's not really so gender specific. These are emotional environments. All people have emotions, so these are functions, but we'd say that it is seen more directly in this kind of thing. So if we do have a lady constantly changing the mind, constantly changing the position of the room, constantly moving, or constantly taking care of other people, these are all going to be strong indicators. Constantly working, especially same with guys, constantly prioritizing one specific thing. These are all actually extremes. So we'd say that emotional TLC is needed in these areas. There's something else that's powering these actions, and it's not rounded and based in the health of the individual. It is really over using our internal resources, therefore will lead to burnout. Generally in ladies as well, we're going to have an overly caretaking expression. They want to love and nurture all things. Or we might have, more prevalently today, the reverse, the lacking of wanting to take care of things and saying, well, that's not my responsibility, or that didn't happen for me, or a kind of overly stereotypical male traits coming from a lady, I'd say. These kind of things, again, are going to go against the emotional environment of the individual. And we would say that we want to explore this further so that we can find more of a reservoir of restoration in the individual. Right? Ladies do have what they call larger amounts of human growth hormone. This is like the replenishing, the refreshing, the restoring hormone in the individual. So if we're going to say that hormone needs to have its visual and external expression, we'd want it to have it in those areas as well. And so we'd look a little bit deeper into how can we make all the three of these things kind of move back into an environment of emotion that is supportive of health. So these are generally the expressions. There is further research in other areas saying that the body going against itself, either hormonally, in like thyroid style things, these too can be expressions of overly or chronic stress. We do define stress a little bit differently when we are talking about self-care. Stress is more of the warning sign that something's off and things need to be looked into in a specific area. Physically, this looks like pain and discomfort or tightness. Mentally, this seems like frustration or aggression or apathy or moving away from something in larger amounts. Emotionally, this is more of a charged situation, large bursts or negations of emotion, generally to do with things that never quite solve the thing itself. And again, it'll pop up. Maybe now that that area is quieted down, pop up over here. This is more characteristic of a kind of emotional stress or emotional challenge in a way. Now, that being said, we do still want to think of this stressor as something that needs action to happen. What the action is more important. What is the motivating factor behind these expressions that caused stress? Is it lifestyle related? We're going to say there's always a strong supportive aspect of the lifestyle supporting the stressful environment in the individual. And we'd say that to restore this, we'd look at the character of the individual, and to restore the character of the individual, we'd look at the emotions powering action. And you see we have this great self-care cycle, also known as the emotional system, if you will, and we want to restore that. So we can't say that we can ever say it's one without addressing the rest. That's, I guess, the moral of the story. So hopefully this is insightful, gives you a little bit more understanding of how emotions, energy moving out, also hormones, also physical look, body response, verbs, words, communications, thoughts, solutions, and therefore the world of the individual changes to directly map the emotional environment as well. All right.